Hello, mixtresses and mixters. This is mixtressrae. You're watching Mixtress video. Yeah, I mean, I've got candles, so I better light them, right? This one, you're not gonna really be able to see. Unless I move. Yeah, I'll just move. Yes, okay. Don't give up on me now. I got these candles for Christmas and they're the right size and they're black, but they have a weird smell and they don't last very long. And they have tiny little flames. Wow. Hi guys. Can you tell it's been a while? I don't know how to connect with other human beings anymore. I've been off the internet all month. But let me do a weird angle moment. Get ready. Look. Snow. It's nice. There's a little snow day happening. Spent like 5 minutes before I hit record setting up the shot perfectly, and then I fuck it up in the first minute and a half. Of course I do. Of course I do. Okay. Yes. I'm having a bit of a salt hangover today because I ate way too much salt for dinner last night. Okay. Here we go. We as in me and anyone else that wants to join. Sylvain just started a hashtag, only 10 decks for Lent. So this is a play on the Katie Flowers hashtag only 10 decks. And it's partially because and I know I'm not the only person, whenever I first heard of the hashtag only 10 decks, my brain immediately went to, oh, they're only using 10 decks for a certain period of time and then reporting back about their experiments. But that wasn't what it was. It was basically just a top 10. So I don't think I did end up participating in that one. But when Sylvain told me that he was doing only 10 decks, that he was only going to be using 10 decks for the entirety of Lent, I thought, hell yeah, I want to try that. I think this is going to be a really big challenge for me, but I would like to do it. I am now going to, my general idea is that I will do kind of like Sylvain did and show you the 10 that I'm planning on using at the beginning, which Lent starts on March 2nd, Wednesday, so next Wednesday, if you're watching this when it comes out. And are you on? Yes. Is it on? So I'm gonna show you, there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3 that I can't show you because basically I'm not doing it kind of really the same way that Sylvain did. I'm doing it as they're not just my top 10 decks. It's like my top 5, and then the other 5 are kind of decks that I know that I will want to work with in the spring, which is, you know, when this whole thing is happening. And there are a couple that I don't even have in my possession yet. There are 3 that I don't have in my possession yet that I won't be able to show you, but I know I will be receiving during that time period. And I'm the kind of person that I want to work with decks immediately when I receive them. So they're on my list, even if they end up being decks that aren't for me, you know? Okay, so I'm going to start with my top 3 of all time. They are definitely on the list. And I did not get them out beforehand, so excuse me while I get them out. Okay, my top 3, which some of y'all maybe can guess. Dark Wood Tarot, Marigold, and RWS. So these are the like ones that are just kind of ride or die. I need them at all times. Personally, I'm not going to count, like, because I have a Centennial version of this deck too that is in my purse at all times. I am not going to count that as a separate deck from this one. This will just be my at-home version, and then I have the one that's in my purse. Also, I will be amending, most of the time I use a copy of Modern Witch whenever I do readings for myself in the bathtub because it's just very resilient to, it's very water resistant. But for this project, I think I will, if I decide to do a reading while I'm in the tub, I'm going to take the Centennial with me to the tub because I think it will also be pretty water resistant as well, and I could just be like a little bit more careful with it. So, not that you guys probably care about all that minutia, but I care about that kind of minutia, which is exactly why I love TarotTube and doing hashtags like this. So those are the first three. Next are decks that I think I will want to work with specifically in spring. So one of them is, this is also kind of probably one of my top 10 of all time, actually. Tarot of the Sweet Twilight. I have a Discord that I'm on that we're going to be doing like kind of a tarot book club study on this deck in spring, if I remember correctly. Either way, this deck says spring to me, so I'm going to be using it in spring anyway, even if no one else does. This is a good kind of like, like I've said before with this deck, it has like a twist on tarot. Like every image, there's a little bit of a twist on the traditional meanings. So this is a good one for like journaling or just kind of like, you know, expanding your ideas of certain cards, concepts, and things like that. So definitely want to be working with this one in spring. Another one that is a very spring deck to me. This one is, it might be a surprise to you that I feel this way about this deck, but this deck is kind of, if you watch Sylvain's video, his deck that was kind of his mental health buddy, the deck that he goes to whenever he is feeling low and he wants to know that things are going to be okay. His deck was a Radley Valentine deck, but for me, that deck is Wild Unknown. Not only does this deck sort of remind me of spring just in general, but when I first started using it, I guess if I'm going to talk about it for a second, I should take it out and show you the cards, you know, like a good tarot tuber. But whenever I first started started really learning the tarot, this was one of the main decks that I learned with. And one of the things that really appealed to me at the time was that there weren't any people in it. And that is actually extremely comforting to me whenever because tarot has helped me work through a lot. Like, psychologically, I am so much better since I started learning tarot and using tarot for myself. And I've said this before, but whenever I first started learning tarot, I really wasn't even ready to see humans in my decks. And that's why this was the perfect entry point into tarot for me, because its simplicity and the fact that it doesn't have any people in it was just so comforting to me at the time. And even still, for me, psychologically, spring is the hardest season for me. So this is a deck that, and it's a very specific deck for me. Like, I don't actually use it that often anymore, but when I do, when I want to use this deck, this is the only deck I want to use. So, and when I'm in a dark place, when there's like a tornado warning and I'm in my house freaking out, this is the deck I go to for a reading, because it takes things completely back to the basics. This is also the deck that I go to if I'm like on the 4th of July, whenever I'm really stressed out about the fireworks. You know, this is my PTSD healing deck. Even though it does have some, like, you know, darker imagery in a few of the cards, it's not a deck you might necessarily think of as a deck that's good for that purpose. But for me, this is kind of my comfort. It's everything's going to be okay deck. And so that is an important thing to have accessible to you if you're only going to be using 10 decks in a 47-day period, which is what Lent will be this year. Next, and this one is one that I have to stand up to get to. Hold on. Listen to my knees creak. Okay. This one is Fairies Oracle by Brian Froud. This one is another one that I'm picking because I see it as a spring deck. And I wanted to have some Oracle energy in here. So this is the only Oracle deck that I currently have in my possession that I've chosen. So the only Oracle deck potentially that I will be working with during this period. There's actually one other one that I can't, is a secret. There's another one that I don't have yet that's a secret right now. So, but this one will be the only one that I'm working with other than that one. And this is actually the first Oracle deck I ever owned. I had this one as a teenager. Unfortunately, this is not that copy, but yeah, I was digitizing some old VHS tapes the other day at the library, and I saw it in my bedroom when I was 18. So right after I graduated high school, I already had this. In May of 2001, I already had that Oracle deck. Okay, so what are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Yes. Hold on. So, I forgot I was going to show all the tarot first, but I forgot one. But another one that I will be working with, this one is a very great one to use for clients. It's very accessible, and it's one that I haven't worked with myself that much since I got it, and it is Everyday Witch. This one I also think will be a great deck to work with in spring in general. For me personally, let me show you, because of this card in particular, because I experienced a very devastating tornado that destroyed my hometown and my house and my grandparents' house and my mom's house and my sister's house, and destroyed my childhood home. It was the most traumatic event that's ever happened to me, and that's why spring is hard for me. But it was during a strength year that I went through that. So at first, when I first saw this deck, I couldn't really handle this imagery. But I've worked through a lot of that shit, and now I think this is super powerful imagery and energy, because she is controlling the tornado, you know? So I think that this one could be on days whenever I'm dealing with a little bit of spring stress, but I'm not too under it. I think this could be a healing deck for me to use, and this will be my first spring having the physical copy of this deck. That ring light does make things look pretty, doesn't it? I think. And it's in order just because I haven't used it yet this year, so it's still in order. So, is that everything that I can show you? That is everything that I can show you, actually. Because I have an Oracle deck that will be coming to me in the first couple weeks of March. I have a tarot deck that I will be receiving towards the end of March. And then I have another tarot deck that a friend is planning to send me, like, probably in the next week or so. So those are on my list as well, because I know I'll want to work with them as soon as they're in my possession, but they are not in my possession yet. So that is my intention. Those are my 10 decks that I intend to work with during Lent. We will see how it goes. I want to take a moment to express something that Sylvain said, to just kind of emphasize something that Sylvain said at the end of his video, which is that if you choose to participate in this is just for fun. Don't take it too seriously. You know, if you get to a point, you've decided to do it, and you get to a point in your Lent period where you just really, really, really need a certain deck, It's, you know that that's the one that you need right now, and you're having a moment where your mental health is not the best and you want to consult a particular deck in your collection, but it's not one that you've set aside as one of your 10. Use it. You know, do what you got to do. Don't stop yourself from using something that will make you feel better in the moment, because that's what tarot and oracle is for, right? It's to nice wash your life. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with telling yourself, I call it delusional optimism. Like, that is kind of a philosophy with me almost. Like, I need to tell myself the best possible story at all times. And I know some people would say that's toxic positivity, but it's how I have to live my life. So don't yuck my yum, you know what I mean? So I am going to apply this to myself as well. There's also an oracle deck that I pre-ordered many moons ago that there's a possibility that it will show up during this Lent period of time. But I didn't want to put it on my list because I didn't want to get my hopes up in case it doesn't arrive. I didn't want to waste a slot. So I'm telling y'all right now, if that particular oracle deck shows up, that one that I pre-ordered, if it shows up during Lent, I'm gonna fucking use it even though it's not on my list. I'm gonna do it. And I'm not gonna say that I failed this whole experiment. I'm just gonna tell you what the journey, what the ride was like at the end. And I have every intention of sticking to my 10 decks because I do think it will be an interesting experiment to just really go deep with the ones that I've chosen to go deep with. And I think it's gonna be a good time. And at the end of it, it's quite possible that one of these decks will be in the purgatory drawer. I'll be like, yep, worked with it for a month and a half, and now I'm sick of it. Goodbye. It's very possible that that will happen, especially with those ones that I don't even have in my possession yet, because I typically have a pretty visceral reaction to a tarot deck as soon as I get it in my hands. So if I just like really hate one of those 3 decks that I don't have in my possession yet, one of them I know I'm not gonna hate, but the other 2, who knows? But you guys will just have to stay tuned to my next. I'm assuming I'll make a video at the end of Lent, and that will probably be it, unless there's just some kind of revelation somewhere in the middle of this journey that I would like to share with you guys. But yeah, I think that's it. So again, my list is, let's see if I can just get everything into the shot like Sylvain did. Kind of in the shot. Go Rider Tarot. Darkwood is not going to be in the shot because how could it be? It's a gigantic box and I've insisted upon keeping it. Okay, whatever. So Marigold, Sweet Twilight, Wild Unknown, RWS, Darkwood, Everyday Witch, and Fairies Oracle. Those are the 7 that you see here, and there will be 3 more that will be coming to me at some point during the Lent period. So if you're wondering like what Lent is all about, just in case you don't know, I'm not Catholic. I've never participated in Lent before in my life, but the general idea, as far as I understand it, is there's Mardi Gras Tuesday, which is your last opportunity to indulge in all the things that you've decided to give up for Lent. In our case, for this experiment, I'll be using so many tarot decks on Fat Tuesday. All the tarot decks that will not be available to be used. And then, starting Wednesday, March 2nd, these will be my only 7 decks until I receive the other 3 in the coming weeks. And yeah, and that goes through until Easter Sunday is when you can finally break your fast. So that's 47 days. That is actually going to be a huge challenge for me. So we'll see how it goes. Thanks for coming with me on this journey. If just, thanks for witnessing my journey. And if you decide to join in, it will be a VR to Sylvain, and it is only 10 decks for Lent. Bye.